Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast, a hybrid structure encompassing health, fitness, self-improvement, and entertainment, where no topic is off limits and all opinions are graciously welcomed.
Let's get on with the show!
And now, here's the host of the show, Mike Sinopoli.
This is the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, and on this episode, I am addressing a question I asked to the crowd over on Instagram. And for this one, I have brought on a guest, one of the gentlemen who has replied to this question here, and he's a Marine veteran. Okay, ranking as corporal, serving from 2005 to 2009 with 2 combat tours. He's also the lead singer of the heavy metal band Gore, the former heavy metal band Gore. His name's Mike Tonkovic. Mike, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how are you, man?
Good,
Long
good,
time no
man.
see.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's a good thing, like I always say, the pros and cons in life, the social media has many of those. And one of the pros of social media is keeping in contact with old friends from the past. We began working together at the Holiday Inn in Itasca, I think in the late 90s.
Yeah, I was 15 years old, so I'm going to be 40 here next month. So,
Wow.
yeah, 25 years ago.
Wow, 40's coming up for you already, and our boss is now a felon. He's wanted by the FBI. His name is Frank Bush Amir. If you go ahead and Google that name, you will see his wanted FBI file online. I've looked at it many times to see if he's been caught. I don't think he has. We think he's fled the country out of the United States and hidden back home in Iran or Turkey or wherever he's from. He was embezzling. It was wild. We were working banquets, and he was the banquet, kind of the banquet leader, right? Would you call him that?
Yeah.
He's kind of coordinated.
Judy.
Yeah, and he coordinated all the banquets. And now, remind you, we worked at a Holiday Inn. It was a nice facility, but not that nice. But this guy would walk around and act like he was worth $10 billion. He wore a tuxedo everywhere. The way he would talk, it was very bizarre. Something was up with him. And sure enough, a few years later, our boss was wanted by the FBI, and I can't believe it. But let's get to it. Before I do, though, I do always, you are the third veteran I've had on this show. So thank you, Mike, for your service. Can't imagine going through some stuff like that and doing that kind of thing, putting yourself out there, missing time with your family and things like that. So salute you and respect you for that and your service. So I went to Instagram, all right, and we do a little more than just fitness here on this podcast. I'd like to change it up a little bit, get outside of that at times. Some of that will be touched here, nutrition, fitness, of course. But I asked Instagram, now without mentioning, because I don't want to get political here, not too political, without mentioning any politician, no candidates, nothing like that, what would you change about the United States? And in some cases, this is going to kind of go from not just the United States, but also the world. So, Mike, I'm going to start off with you because you were one of the responders here. And you said you want the removal of the 2-party system. There is a way to do it. Message me and I can explain. Now, before you go ahead, I'm just going to let you know that divisiveness was one of the main things that I was going to state on the show. But I think a lot of divisive happens all different ways. But one way we're divided, and it's growing heavily, and it has with the advent of social media plus politics. Those things kind of mesh together to create this wild divisiveness of people through our phones on these platforms, and these politicians have found this mouthpiece on these things to go ahead, and this is where they have really succeeded in letting this 2-party system divide us. So what do you say? You know a lot about this. This is why you're on here, because I don't know a lot. I'm here to listen and learn from you about how we can remove the 2-party system from what we have going here. What do you think?
Well, I don't believe that I know how, but I do believe in that there's a theory that is thrown out there. It was first presented in a book by Catherine Gehl, Gehl. I hope I pronounced that correct, and Michael Porter, and it's called The Politics Industry, and how political innovation could break partisan gridlock and save our democracy. And one of the things that caught my attention with it is I consider my political background moderate. I see things on both sides. I don't argue I hate getting into political conversations and everything. I have my own ways, everything. But I've noticed that when we have primaries and everything, it is always who's the furthest right leaning or furthest left leaning individual. And those are usually the individuals that get elected because they produce the base and the wild supporters and everything. And that is one thing where a moderate like me, like I don't like everything right leaning or I don't like everything left leaning. I like that middle ground. And there's individuals that like me or so that almost don't feel like we're being supported. I mean, we do, but in a sense, if you think about it in theory, we're not. It's usually the far right or the far left. And that caught my attention with this book because I was reading the script of it on the back, the summary, and they were arguing about what is called the final five voting. And the more I read about it, my background is in economics. That's what I studied in school. I just shy of a PhD in economics. I just never really wrote my dissertation. And I was thinking about like just the theory because there's not really a mathematical concept that you could argue with this. It's more theory. But so say you remove all of both parties, Republican, Democrat, and you just have an open primary. Everybody who wants to come and run could run. You could run with left-leaning arguments. You could run with right-leaning arguments, or you could run for right moderates, or I'm sorry, and a moderate type of belief or type of
Right. Something like a libertarian type, something that's a little less to the
well,
extreme.
yeah, I mean libertarian, or you even have the Green Party, like more environmentalist type thing, or you have the tree huggers.
Or maybe you just don't have a label. How about we get rid of labels? How about maybe that's something that I think we should be like
Yes,
focusing less on in this country. In
and
general, like I think we get so hung up on what they call it, identity politics. Is that kind of what it is?
yeah,
Like,
that's exactly
right?
what
Like
this is
so once
doing.
you got to get rid of the labels. I think people want to just be, they get into that echo chamber. They want that group think and all those other buzzwords, that has kind of come about this is as
Mhm.
people have kind of gone, mob nuts on people on the internet and just attacked everybody because of labels. And I think that once we pull the labels down, I mean, let's start celebrating labels, right? Rather than
Mhm.
attacking them. Like as it goes as far as like, race or religions and things like that. Like, why are we attacking these things? Why can't we just like
Yeah.
be happy that we have these differences? But again, we have to find a middle ground that kind of, everybody kind of needs to go with. I just think like we're also becoming a little more everything needs to be my way. Would you say so?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, lots of my really good friends are far leaning in politics and stuff. And I mean, take for example, I was in the Marines. We come from everywhere in the country, and we all put on that uniform. When we're all in our uniform, we're each other's best friends. We take away that identity. Like, what do you identify as? Democrat or Republican, Libertarian, Green, whatever, hippie.
Mhm.
Um, and then it's like as soon as you take that uniform off, it's like then you start cognitively placing like your beliefs or like I'm trying to say it like when you put the uniform on, you're unified. But when you take it off, it's where people start taking stuff literally or too seriously or start taking things to heart. And it's almost like an argument that I heard like, if you could put that back to little kids that go to a private school that still wear uniforms and stuff.
Yeah.
Back when I was in school, I used to wear Jinkos,
Well,
big baggy.
I did go to the school where you wore the uniform.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that we didn't have a military type mentality there. We were all very individualized in that sense. But like I think when you put that uniform on, like you're talking, there's a whole lot more behind that than just the clothing.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that. I was saying like we're all unified as one, meaning
One
we.
goal, one common goal.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, and I just can't.
You got it. It's all right.
Um,
I know what you mean.
but you take it off, and then you start seeing people's like true colors, or you start looking at them in a different way based on how they dress or how they act or what they like to do to hang out and when they hang out with people and stuff like that, you know? Um, and people are afraid of change or think of anything taboo in nature and see it as the antichrist, we'll say,
Right.
you know? And that's just something that unfortunately it sucks. And with this whole final five counting or voting thing that this book created or developed, it caught my attention, and it essentially it takes in theory it takes away all of that and allows you to vote for the best. And now the way that it works is you would have an open primary where individuals would go in there and you would be able to rank who your top five choices are, you know, for candidate. And again, there's no Republican, no Democrat, no nothing. It's just who is your top five. If someone automatically gets 50% or greater, they automatically would win the nomination because they have the majority.
Okay.
But if they don't, if they do not have the top 50%, say the top person only has like 30%, well, you would take whoever was in fifth place. It's in ranking order. Whoever was in fifth place, who obviously doesn't stand a chance. Well, you take him out of the picture, and for everyone that voted for him or her, as their first choice, you would go to those individuals' second choice, and then you would tally those votes on to the remaining four candidates.
Okay. So this is
Okay.
but this is a primary you're talking. And
This is a primary and general.
so like okay, so I'm confused because if it's a primary, isn't that sort of leading
Well,
to
yes,
another?
yes. I'm sorry. That would be yes. That would be well, no, because in a sense, and again, this is all theory, and I'm basing this on
Yeah, no, I
my
get
memory
it.
of this thing. But there, in a sense, it would be an open primary. So if you have open primary, there is no two party. It is no this guy versus this guy. It's the top five people who want to run.
Okay, so I guess all right, so I'm trying to make sense of it myself in my head while you're explaining it because if they're having a primary with five candidates in there and they're voting the way that they're voting, so this say someone gets 50% and they're automatically the nominee for that, but that seems like there's going to be another
But
five somewhere else, right?
well, no, because see, that's the thing is you're removing the identity of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or the Green Party or Libertarian Party, Independents, everything. It's just the top five individuals overall. So they could be three Democrats, two Republicans, or four Republicans, one Libertarian, and no Democrats. It could be any group of people. It's all based on who receives the most votes, the top five. And then if that one individual does receive 50% or more, they're obviously the majority wants them. They would go on and end up winning or whatever.
They would be named president then, correct?
Or mayor or whatever.
Or whatever. Okay, so they're taking the highest seat. They're not going to go against somebody else in a one-on-one like it is now, where there's a Democratic.
No, it would be completely changing the way that we know
Yeah.
of the whole election system.
And I would take it one step further than that, to be honest with you. You know what I would do to make this thing legit? But I think this also there's a two ways to look at what I'm about to say. And I see both ways of it, but like to really get personal biases out of there, you would actually just have written policies, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is. And you could go and if you really care about this shit, you're not looking at who's doing what, but you could see what their policy looks like, each person, and what they're going to do, what they're saying, where they stand on certain issues. And you vote like that, almost, hey, we don't even know who this person is. And then, hey, you voted based on policy. I know that's kind of shady because it's like, well, who the fuck am I actually voting for? Who is this person? What have they done in their lives before? I understand that can kind of get a little shady looking. But what do you think about that? An anonymous and policy only voting system.
Yeah, no, that would work in my eyes too.
I see that because then you get it. I'm not, like I said, we're not going to name any politicians here, but then you kind of get off of that whole like, oh, this politician did this 11 years ago. This candidate did. His son was running around doing this shit. You get rid of all that kind of distractive, kind of like, this is like Jerry Springer bullshit on our. It's like, what is this? Like, get rid of this trash. Like, it's trash TV at this point. American politics. So. I mean, I see what you're saying, and I don't know how the hell it gets there because I think there's too much power at stake for this to even happen. I think a bunch of people have to sit down and start giving a shit about the actual country rather than themselves and their agendas.
So
actually
I want to say, I believe Alaska uses this type of voting system.
Okay, well,
I know that they have a voting system that it's different from the rest of the remaining states within the country, and I want to say that it's them, but. If it's not, I apologize. But I think I could remember reading that they were like this, or that they are a proportional type of voting system.
Okay, so it says here, I'm on this, what is this, elections.alaska.gov. Of course, some stupid bullshit pop-up came up when I was trying to read it, but it looks like they have some sort of ranking system in place. In Alaska, so I'd have to look more into it before I can actually sit here and talk on it. It says in 2020, the general election voters approved an initiative to establish nonpartisan. See, this thing keeps on. See, I'm trying to read this shit, okay, here we go. Nonpartisan top 4 primary is used to determine the top 4 vote getters that will advance to the general election, regardless of political affiliation.
Yes,
in accordance with Alaska's laws. Primary election candidate does not have to be a member of a political party or political group to run for office. Candidate is registered with a political party or group. It does not imply the candidate is nominated or endorsed by or approved or associated with a particular party or group. Currently, there is one primary ballot. Okay, so yeah, you're right. Alaska is doing something of the sort. All right, well, that's interesting. Didn't know that. Unfortunately, Alaska. They're like one of the redheaded stepchild states of the United States here, being where they're located and how late they came into the game. But hey, it's good to see, nonetheless. I'd say so. All right, so I like that. So we sort of covered that. What you wanted to say, the removal of the 2-party system. I like the idea. I've thought that's a great idea. I think the 2-party system, for what it's worth, has become a bunch of divisive bullshit, and I do see why it's in place. So you kind of can avoid some sort of a dictatorship of sorts of just one.
Well, it's whoever's in power. They're only passing policies that would stimulate their own specific base and nothing else. And when you do that, nothing gets passed,
right?
Because you're either going to the extreme right or the extreme left, and nothing ever gets passed and goes through. And that's why some sort of removal to where you're able to actually look at monitor. Because if you look like at within the Senate, I think there's like maybe 5 moderate type of senators or whatever.
Right.
And those are really the people that are getting things done and accomplished over there, whereas everybody else is back and forth on the news or something. And
well, the news is the problem. The media is the problem. We know that because the reason
1,000%,
and the reason why the extremes are so in our face is because the extreme sells, right? It's the extremes, it's the drama. That's what gets eyeballs on screens. It gets eyeballs on phones, on TVs. It gets ads shown. It's all a game for money and clicks and everything like that. It's so obvious. I'm sorry, but it is. I don't care what side you're on, left, right, middle. I don't care, because that's what it's about, and that's what we're seeing, and it's clear as day. And the more extreme you go, the more attention you're going to get. Like if if you see someone just kind of like saying, "Oh, trying to find some common ground," that's boring shit to people. They want to see the nut cases. They want to see the rowdy right and the wacky left. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That's what they want to see. That's what they're in this for. So here's what we'll do going forward here to move this along. Mike, I'm gonna get your you can pass, you can comment, you can say what you'd like. I'm gonna let you go first on everything I say here. So what I'm gonna do is read the responses from Instagram for the question that I put out there that you'd answered that we've already discussed. And again, just to remind anybody, we asked what would we change about the United States without mentioning politics or politician by name. So you cannot name any politician in this. Okay. So here we go. Our fit junkie wants new candidates. So, I mean, that's sort of mentioning them, but like, what do you say to that about what we have right now? We can breeze over this one. New candidates. What do you think?
I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass too. I think everybody's kind of bored to death with that. So I just want to give everyone their dues that said something here. Chasing Gains says dealing with the homelessness crisis uh, before sending billions to other countries. So what do you think about that? That she's saying that we should worry about our own country's homelessness versus sending money. I'm guessing Ukraine and other places they've sent money to other countries. What do you say about that?
On the record or off the record.
Whatever, however you want to say it, man. It's
As I said, I'm an economist. I look at numbers and everything,
mhm.
and I can assure you that if anyone who's actually looked at our budget and stuff, it's literally like 0.00001% of our GDP that we spend
Yeah,
on other nations and stuff. And there's good things and there's bad things with
yeah.
everything you do.
It's
Every
true,
decision is going to have its positive aspects come out of it
right?
and your negative aspects.
And
So you can't please everyone.
correct. And you're right. I will agree with you that the money that's sent to other countries is a fraction of what is available. But the reason why that we have homelessness and why we have poverty is because of the system that we're in. And it's because that the way that our monetary system works is that we run off debt, we run on interest, we run on things like that. There's two sides. There's being on the right side of debt and the wrong side of debt. And as you know, if you're paying that interest or you're collecting that interest, you're on one of the other two sides. So therefore, the way the system is that basically you are either we need basically poor fucking people. We need that shit because that's just how the country operates.
I,
There's no way unless you become a communist nation.
and
There's just no other way.
honestly,
Hmm.
you're right.
And there's no reason. And then people ask, why don't they teach this in schools? Why don't they teach in schools finance? Why don't we know how to do our taxes correctly? Why don't we know how to invest? Why don't we know how to open up an IRA? Why don't they tell us how to avoid debt? Because the system they've created will collapse without people falling into debt. That is why if you go to college, you are groomed and you are conditioned to take on a large sum of debt at a very young age to kind of just take you into that way and just be in debt and normalize debt as you go to college. I'll talk about this later in the show with something that I'm going to say after I read everybody else's. So I'm going to stop there and I'll review that a little bit later. So, anyways, that was kind of getting a little bit off there, but we are going to have homeless people no matter what. I'm sorry, it's just going to be that way. All right, next up, law and fitness. Making residency easier between Canada and the U.S. to be able to work and live there. So she wants easier residency in Canada. And I don't understand that one. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
Yeah, I believe that they're saying to um, if say someone lives over in New York, right over by
In Buffalo.
yeah, Buffalo and stuff, and works in Canada, maybe make it easier to get temporary residency or some.
Yeah.
I kind of understand what they're saying, and then I kind of don't. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, anyone who our immigration system is completely um I will say I don't know enough about it to even
Sure.
make an argument.
Yeah, I can't talk too much on this one. I guess this also wouldn't affect, I don't think, too many people just being on the border of Canada, but I can see where they're at. Maybe they want to work in Canada, live in the US, or vice versa, and need some easier something easier policy to that. So Tiff Mill Pick says clean water should be free. What do you think about that?
I could tell you right now so I work in the public utility system.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you right now that the water that comes out of your toilet is clean enough for you to drink.
Right. And also
It sounds
nothing.
disgusting, but it's true.
Yeah, and really nothing's free, but I mean, sure, why not? Basic human need, right? Okay, understood. Celeste Yang chimes in. She's a good friend of the show. Uh, Less ranch dressing and more blue cheese. I have to say, I agree with you, especially when it comes to salads and chicken wings. What do you think?
I'm a Thousand Island type of guy. So,
You putting Thousand Island on wings?
oh no, on
What about
wings? No.
no, salad though? You like salad?
Yeah. Oh, on salad, on
Thousand?
burgers.
Yeah,
Burgers.
that's burgers work with Thousand Island. That's kind of reminiscent of the Big Mac sauce, really.
That's exactly what it
It's
is.
it's a thousand it's a Thousand
But
Island base.
no, but for wings, I'm definitely a ranch person.
See, I'm a blue cheese guy. I like because the reason why is because I like that when those chunks are in there. Have you ever just kind of like taken a wing and then you
I don't
go
know
ahead?
about you, but I don't like chunks in my mouth. So,
I don't know, man. I've seen some videos. No, all right. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. But all right, the Mexican carnivore. Here's one for you. Anyone who pushes policies for war has to serve.
um, no. If you look at, and I don't know the actual number of this, but if you look at, I want to probably say like 75% of everyone who's ever served in our presidency as commander in chief has not served in the military.
Right. Well, he's
All
saying
right.
that's something he'd change. He wants anyone who pushes for. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
pretty generalized, but anyone who
I
pushes for policies for war has to go and serve.
I don't agree with that for the simple reason that takes away freedom of speech.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I see both
Everyone
sides.
should be able to argue whatever it is they want, but we have advisors, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who are in the military, and those are the individuals that are running those type of operations and provide um, who advise the commander in chief, the president.
Makes sense.
And so technically those anyone could argue anything, but arguing and doing are two different things.
Right. Correct. That's true. I think that one, I get where he's coming from, but also there's a lot more involved there, as you were saying. I agree with you. All right. A Mexican carnivore actually commented in here twice. He also wants to remove the Department of Education, 10% all in tax and no income tax. What do you think about any of that? Does any of that make sense to you?
Say that one more time, please.
He wants to remove the Department of Education, 10% all in tax, no income tax. I'm not sure I know what he means.
So he wants to remove the Department of Education. He wants 10%
All in
tax,
tax.
all in tax, whatever that means, and no income tax. So I don't know how you could have a 10% all in tax with no income tax, because what are you taxing then?
Right. Yeah, it was a little out
Um,
there.
but I do understand. I mean, he's arguing the Department of Education. Me, I disagree with that completely for my own personal reasons.
Sure.
I could tell you when I got out of the military, I started working full time, and doing like grunt work, and I hated it. And I left a job where I was making very good money, probably like six figures, and I left and I went to a minimum wage position because I left the job that I had to go back to school and completely change my careers into something that I wanted. And I will forever say that that was the best decision of my entire life because it allowed me to do what it is I do today. And I've made, I've have my own research published in one of the most prestigious journals that there is. And I would have never been able to say something like that before, like it's opened up doors for me that has never been. So removal of the Department of Education, I would want to know what their argument is, if they're why they would want to do that, because the Department of Education can uh, regulates lot more than just the school system in general.
Right, right. I'm sure there's a lot of aspects to that.
But 10% all-in tax, no. The economist in me, I'll tell you right now, the progressive tax movement, if there is a matter of you know what, I'll pass on that one. That's getting a little bit too more, but it's.
But hey, I wanted to
I
tell
know
you
what I want to say, but I don't think I could say it without sounding too political. And unfortunately, that's one of those arguments that
That's
you
fair.
can't swing.
That's fair. That's fair. And you know what though? You did put a good lesson out there for some people. Like you said, you left a job you weren't happy with. You went and worked a minimum wage job so you could go to school to redo your life a little bit, and now you're happier that way. So it's a good way to put your ego aside, folks, and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this job even though this might not be glamorous while I fix the rest of my life and put myself on a new path. So, that's another way to drop the ego and go ahead um, and do something good for yourself. Just ego is the enemy. But anyways, moving along. My Lakey says, I don't know what this means, but she says I'd move to Italy. I don't know. She wants to move to Italy. Have you ever been?
My wife actually has said that. I don't know what it is there, but my wife is continuously said that there's like a 5 generation span or something. If you have or within 5 generations of an Italian citizen,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to apply for citizenship.
Okay. Well, that's
In
interesting.
Italy.
Okay. I didn't know that, but have you been to Italy before?
Yeah, on my honeymoon, we went to Rome and Florence, and anyone who has not gone, it is
Yeah.
absolutely the most beautiful place I have ever been in my entire life. And if
Yes.
you love history, should be number one on your bucket list.
Yes. I did Venice, Florence, Rome, Pisa, and the Tuscany area. Very beautiful. Very much see. Venice was my favorite. But when you go to Venice, they tell you don't have pizza in Venice because the ovens are not the same as they would be in Florence and Rome. Just a heads up. Go for seafood and pasta in Venice. Have your pizza in Rome or your pizza in Florence. That's what I'm told. But anyways, DJ Wetton kind of echoes what we've said before about decreasing divisiveness. I think we'd like to see divisiveness be decreased throughout the country. I think it's always been there, but I also think that divisiveness is now more in our faces due to our phones and the amount of information and videos and words and things and threads that we can see, right?
I also, and I'm just going to throw this out here because this is like my own little peeve.
Mm-hmm.
Social media,
Yeah.
because anybody could say anything, and it before you didn't have you could have conversations with people normally, but when you take away the how can I say, there's always going to be that 10-year-old on there that you don't know that's talking all this and working people up, and that spurs things. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a 10-year-old, but I'm just saying,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
People when they're not in front of someone,
accountability is what it is. There's no accountability for their shitty words.
Yes,
that's what it is, right?
They're not afraid to say things that they would be afraid to say in public, and that could be a good thing, but at the same time, it could also be a bad thing. And it's just one of my own personal peeves.
Yeah, no, I get it. Especially those who just hide behind, a generic photo and a fake name, and it can just kind of wreak havoc on people and be a troll. But that's the life we live right now. So, Sam Ali wants term limits for Congress. It's a little political there, but what do you think?
Um, well, you vote them in, quit voting them in.
I never understood not having term limits for certain seats
I,
because
I honestly believe I do agree. Term limits for all around.
I mean, I feel like it gives people it gives politicians or anyone anywhere, like, I mean, it just gives them some incentive to sort of do
Mhm.
something, rather than just, oh, I'm in term, no, that's it, I don't know that. And then I don't know. They just keep getting voted,
Well,
voted, and voted and voted, and they can keep just sticking around, feeding people the same bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I don't
mhm.
know. That's what
It,
I think. I think there is a time where things do need to be changed, and I don't think anyone has ever sat in a seat, at least in recent history, and done so good that they have to stay there. I don't think, unless I'm
no.
off. I'm just generalizing though. All right, FitFab Phillips says give more power back to individual states. Pretty sure they have a good amount of power, but what do you
Hey,
think?
I'm pretty sure they have a very good amount of power, even if you don't think they do.
I,
um,
yeah, I think we just
for
throw out.
example, we live in Illinois. You know, you go north to Wisconsin, it's like a completely different country almost when you go up there. The drinking laws,
Hmm.
what are they, 18 or something like that? I mean,
Yeah, it might be.
there's a lot more free or a lot more states have a lot more power than people think they do.
Yeah, it's true. We just don't. I just don't
And
think we see it as much.
and honestly, so I work in the public utility system, and I used to live in Kansas City, and work at the electric utility in Kansas City. And one of my um, Kansas City, as everyone knows, is divided into two different states. You have Missouri and Kansas.
Yep.
Well, all the electric utilities are regulated by the individual states. Each individual state has a public commission that regulates the electric utility. The laws that govern the electric utility for Kansas City on the Missouri side were a complete 180 for the laws that regulated the utility, the portion of the utility or the customers that we service on the Kansas side, to the point where I have heard the regulator say, I don't give a damn what Missouri does, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
You know, so
Hmm.
there's a lot more that goes on to it than what you see in the news and things of that nature and stuff like that. You know,
Oh, yeah,
it really is a night and day difference when you cross those borders.
true. And some could argue that we glamorize the national election, the presidential election,
Yes.
but I think that probably need to be focused more on our state elections, or
Yes.
who's in power within our states. It's going to affect you more day to day than this federal stuff, than this presidency. So I agree with you there. Okay, well, that's interesting. Good knowledge to know that about Kansas City. Kansas City Joe's Barbecue as well is in Kansas City, Kansas.
Nah,
The Z-Man,
nah.
delicious. No good. Q
Q39.
39. Holy shit! I was just about to say it, man. That place is
Yep.
so fucking good.
Q39
Q
and Jack Stack.
39. Yes, Jack Stacks. Q 39. There was another one too, but definitely.
There's Oklahoma Joe's, which you mentioned, but I'm not really for that one. There is, damn it, I can't.
All
It's
right.
one of the big
What
ones too.
Q 39 was a standout for me. I really like that. So if you're Kansas City, hit it up. Jack Stacks Q 39. Anyways, moving on. Patisa 814. She says
Arthur Bryant.
Arthur Bryant's. I heard of that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one I didn't get to. I remember that. I was looking at all the different
Yep.
Kansas City barbecues, and
Arthur
I didn't.
Bryant is the one that started it all there.
Oh, no shit. Well, if I get back to Kansas City anytime soon, that's my first stop then, because I didn't hit it last time. And then and I was talking about barbecue. But anyways, Patisa 80814 says everything. She would change everything. I was just gonna move along from that, but that's the extreme.
Yeah.
We don't. That's just extreme. That would change everything. But here's one I'm probably gonna not really know a lot about. Wandering Woodsman says, "Stop spending on arms to sell around the world. Focus on defense. Avoid regime change." What do you get from that?
avoid regime change.
Stop spending on arms to
Arms.
sell around the world. Focus on defense and avoid regime change.
Well, I don't think we sell arms around the world. I think we honestly provide them. So, and then regime change, I don't, I mean, we have the strongest military in the world, that hands down.
Right.
So I don't know how much more do you want to focus on defense, I
Exactly.
mean, but there's also the matter of a regime change. I don't know of any regime in our country. And unless if you're, I wouldn't even know what they're meaning by that.
It's all right. We could just be having some, just some people kind of coming from their own perspective, and maybe, you only get a certain amount of words to use in these responses as well. So potentially not their fault, but this could be something that doesn't just translate correctly. He also goes on to say to fix our broken systems, infrastructure, housing, wage disparity, mental health. He goes on and on. I know mental health, all that is very, very fair.
And honestly, I think that's the majority of the population agrees with that.
I'd agree too. Absolutely. Yep.
You go to Rockford and you can't drive down a damn street without hitting a pothole.
Oh, yeah, I remember driving through Rockford when I was working out that way once before. And then, even the infrastructure around here where I live is it's just a clusterfuck for sure. But again, a lot of these things, they just come down to not only the state level, but the city level. You know what I'm saying? It's just a mayoral thing for here. But while eating bread as a Texan says, seeing the border issues firsthand, border enforcement, more border enforcement. That's been a hot topic through for many years. What do you think about that?
My argument, or my thing that I always tell everybody is, I born and raised in the Chicagoland area. I was not born and raised in Arizona, Mexico, Southern Texas, like areas that are near the border where people see this stuff on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know enough to say anything, nor do I feel comfortable like, I don't think I'd have one leg to even stand on in a discussion on this nature, because it's never really affected me how it's affected other people. And that's why I'm only looking at it from what I see on the news versus individuals that actually sit there and do look at that or see it come on a first-hand basis. Yeah. Now, the one thing I will say though is and this is coming from an economic standpoint, I do hear, one of the biggest arguments before is, oh, they're taking our jobs. It's the number one argument that we've always heard. And from an economic standpoint, the only way to really measure that type of change or trend, like job growth, or to see how it would affect, is to look at through history. And the only time measurable in history would have been when what's his name? Fidel Castro. He was the dictator in Cuba, correct?
Cuba, yes, Cuba.
Yeah. When Fidel Castro removed the restriction and allowed people who didn't want to be in Cuba to flee to Florida. And Florida saw a massive amount of immigration come in a very short period of time. And during that time frame, their market and their economy flourished. It did not dissipate. It did not get harmed at all. It flourished. And that's the only measurable time. So you could argue, oh, they're taking our jobs. But really, are you going to go into a field and pick strawberries?
Right, exactly. I mean, they're taking jobs that that their goal, I believe, is to come here, work, and then go back.
Yeah,
with the money that they've taken. But again, that could cause some economic turmoil.
Again,
well.
I don't think I have one leg to stand on because I've never really been in.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way, but I don't want to sound ignorant either, because I don't really see a problem here. Like, I don't I'm not no illegal immigrant is taking my
Yeah.
jobs. And there's also the people out there who are always like, oh, this person was murdered by an illegal alien. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, you know what? Look, okay, that sucks and all, but at the same time, how many citizens of the country are murdering people as well? It's like
Yeah,
that's that's a super biased way to look at it. I don't agree with that argument. I can
that's
see.
one of the things going back to how you said about the media.
Exactly. Like the
Me,
media is going to portray this as like, hey, look at this. If we had a stronger, it's a way. It's not even just the media. It's the media, but it's also and I'll even Republicans, right? I mean, they're the ones that want to close the border more than the Democrats, of course.
Mhm.
But that's just the way that they're going to go ahead and spin some things. They're going to use that story. They're going to actually exploit a murder that happened to gain votes and gain and use fear. It's fear mongering, and it's from both. They do it from both sides, and it's very obvious at this point. The only thing I think of, for this sort of thing, for these illegal, I want to know how many people are actually in this country, these undocumented. That's the thing. Like, I mean, as far as like how much of this do we need? How much of that do we need? What do we have here? What's the consensus? Like, are those people in on the? Are they like counted in a consensus? I don't know. Are they?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Like, I mean, for instance, like, okay,
I mean, that'd be
yeah,
pretty stupid to add, and or they ask the question, "Are you an
right.
illegal alien?" Oh, yes. Well,
Yeah,
that's
like
stupid to answer.
so I would guess that they're not in the consensus. So I mean, if you say there's 327 million people living in the United States, that
Yeah.
probably is not the right number. It's the number of legal people who are here. Again, I don't know how it all works, but at the same time, that's the only thing that I could see being an issue is you start just opening borders, letting people just
Mhm.
come in here with no documentation or anything of the sort. We don't know how much to our farms produce. How much do we need for this and that? I don't know how it all works. There's so much to it that I don't know that that's just how I think. While eating bread also mentioned the term limits that we already talked about, and then the last one is from Geo the Great. He's upset and would change interest rates. Again, he goes on for secure borders, and he says Mexican here, and universal health care. So interest rates and universal health care. Any thoughts on that?
So, what was the thing about interest rates?
So, what would you change about the country, the interest rates in the country right now? I think that's
No, absolutely not.
why
Not
not?
in a million years. And I believe you and I have had this discussion. The interest rates are controlled by the Federal Reserve.
Right.
The Federal Reserve is the way that it is for a reason, and it is unregulated by Congress because it has to be able to act in a moment's time and not go through months and months of debate and crap like that.
Right. Makes
The
sense.
interest rates are the way they are right now to combat inflation, and they're doing its job. It's just not the interest rate. There are so many mathematical models that go into what the interest rate should be. Should they move it? How is it going to affect this and that and that? And those things are so taken into consideration. So absolutely not. I 1000% disagree. And I don't know of any economist that would ever agree with
Right.
that. Now, as far as universal healthcare, that's going into the whole. I don't, I'm a veteran. I go to the VA. The VA is kind of what you would consider universal healthcare in a sense because, like, I didn't get to choose my doctors. I go when I'm sick. I hate to break it to you, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I see when I get seen when I want to get seen. I get medicine when I need medicine. You know,
No, it makes
I've,
sense.
I don't have any arguments yet. I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit longer to wait on some things, but you know what? If I'm truly hurting, I'm gonna go to maybe a private practice or something. But
Hmm.
I mean, or an emergency room. But
Okay.
I, yeah, I,
Sure.
I, I'm part of it. See where what people argue on it, but at the same time, those arguments are I don't see the logic behind them
Right.
because I'm perfectly healthy. I know a lot of other people that are perfectly healthy, veterans, and I know a lot of people that take advantage of the thing. And I hate to break it to you, I do go to the VA, I haven't paid for my medical health care in a long ass time, and I'm not gonna lie, I like it.
Hey, that's all right, man. If it's working for you, it is what it is. Yeah, these are a lot of these, that we just read here. We've seen them, we've heard before. Again, this is just what kind of is broadcasted to us. A lot of these responses are kind of a reflection of what is being shown to us all the time. It's also kind of what does, touch our daily lives as well. So to end this thing up here, I had a few myself. I don't want to go too deep in them. I'll rattle them off. You can give your thoughts if you'd like. Mine don't really go too I don't know, too political, really. These are just things about our society more on a observational piece and just the way we are culturally as a society, how we function a little bit. For me, one thing I'd like to see change in this country is the glamorization of hustle culture. I think that it's a little it burns people out, and we feel like we need to brag about how busy we are, and we need to wear that as some sort of badge of honor that we're busy. We're at a competition with each other. We're shitting on each other. This guy's yelling about working 70 hours. This oh fuck you 70 hours. I work 80 hours. This and that. Like go get the money. Do this and that. I feel like it's necessary. I'm not saying don't hustle, don't work hard, don't work smart. I mean, do it all. Do that all. But at the same time, don't let it consume you and make it become just that's it. That's all that you do. And you just neglect your health. You neglect your family, and you're just consumed by hustle, by status, by the job title, by the money, by the bank accounts, and all of that.
Narcissism.
Narcissism indeed absolutely is it plays in from narcissism, and I think that's what our society has become, is very narcissistic. And I think this hustle culture shit is really sabotaging lives, and it's become too just monetarily focused. It doesn't it just it's money's great. I love money. I love everything about it. I love watching my bank accounts grow. I love investing and seeing how it all works. I love it. But at the same time, there's so much more. And there's a lot more, there's a lot more to that. And people also need to understand working hard versus working smart. It's actually the goal to get wealthy. The way to get wealthy is to do as little as possible while collecting as much money as possible. That's why real estate is such a good investment, and it's where these people get so wealthy, from just owning properties, hiring managers, and then just reaping the benefits of passive income. That's how you do it. So you don't want to work. That's why you got the person sitting in the office on a Friday afternoon, toiling away at his computer, pissed off the CEO's out golfing. But hey, that guy owns the company. He's reaping the benefits of what he created. He took those risks. He went that route. He did that. So I'm just saying, sure, did he hustle? Yes, he did. But the way we look at it sometimes is a little bit off. That's all. I know I was rambling there a bit. What are your thoughts? Any thoughts on hustle culture and how we operate in this country?
I mean, I I guess I don't really see that as an issue, or not necessarily as big as that. But I mean, kind of like what you were saying, like there are two different types of people in this world: those who go after it and make it and reap the benefits if it said they succeed and things like that, and those that are more want a more controlled environment, that essentially want that paycheck every 2 weeks or
Right.
whatever. They want to know that stuff. And me, I'm that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I am the guy that works at a desk or in an office
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Friday, and I'm perfectly content being that guy.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. That's all
Yeah.
good. There's
And
not.
my own brother, he owns his own company, and
Mm-hmm.
he saw it from nothing and built it up and is continuing to build it. And that's, his route.
Right.
If
But where I'm going with it though, Mike, is more or less I'm just going more of the route of going so hard, so much, so intensely, and you just
Oh,
neglect everything else. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? That's where I'm really going with it, to where your family's neglected, you don't have a relationship with your kids, you're unhealthy, you're overweight, all because you're just focused in one direction. That's where
awkward
I'm going.
Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah, awkward Thanksgiving dinners. Who's this? Oh, it's your daughter. Oh, sorry. I've been at the office
Yeah.
for the last 17 years. So, that's where I'm
No, I
going with that.
agree. I agree with that. I mean, I don't feel as strong. Like, obviously, you feel much more strong, have a much stronger opinion on it than I do. But I mean,
Mhm.
I agree
Yeah.
with your sentiment and your reasoning.
I just think a little more balance could be needed in some times. I think it kind of goes along with it, which normalizing fast food and processed shit. Again, this is kind of the nutrition side of things of this podcast. Not much to say here, but like it's just I'm not even saying this. It's so ingrained to just like we don't even. The reason why being a nutrition coach is such a necessary thing right now. It's because we've normalized this process of making food a side thing. It's like we don't even think about what we're going to eat. We're so blessed, to be honest, with an abundance of food, whether it be processed or not, or whatever we can get. We don't know how to eat. We weren't taught that in school either, just like finances. And we don't know. So we just normalize this process. And if we try to, and as a nutrition coach, it's hard to tell people, hey, no, you don't do this. Don't do it. But everyone does this. Why? I don't want to do different. You have to do different. And normalizing driving through McDonald's, grabbing a Danish in the morning, a donut in the morning, coming back home, ordering a pizza and going to bed over and over and over and over again is going to lead to a lot of issues down the road. So, to me, it's that normalization of not thinking about food where we once were a species where getting our food was our main, we were literally the same species. Our main thing of the objective of the day was to get the fuck out the cave, get your spear, and go find a fucking bear, kill it, grill it, and eat it. That was the day. That was the job. That was the focus. What are we gonna do?
We are technically animals.
I know, and we are, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we've come so far, and this is the part with like technology and advancements that I never want us to stop advancing in technology. I don't AI maybe change my mind on that a little bit, but at the same time, once the more we advance in technology, the more idle we become, the more stuff's thinking for us, the more just easy it is to just, hey, I can pick up my phone right now. I could order pizza. I could order McDonald's. I can order tacos to my house. All that right now just from my phone without even moving. I can go I'd be right on my porch. I mean, the more that we have this normalized fast food in this process, quick service stuff, the more we need to realize we need to get our asses up and get in the gym. We need to go prep our own food and do our shit.
I'm the guy that you're arguing against.
Yeah,
I
it's okay.
I will tell you right now. I went from like after I got out of the Marines, I hit the gym hard. I was taking all sorts of supplements. I was doing everything that I wanted to do, and I built up muscle mass. I like my bench press, and I know, and I'm just doing that as to show. Like, I went from like benching like 250 to 365 in a matter of like 7 months, and I'm just showing that as a way to measure, my commitment and how fast I went. And then I kind of just stopped. And I am the guy that I hate cooking.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I hate cooking. So when I say I'm the guy that you're arguing against, I'm that guy that goes through the fast food lane. I'm that, unfortunately. And I know it. My wife does a lot. My wife loves to cook. Thank God that she loves to cook.
You got that saving you a little bit.
Yeah, and any chance I get to eat at home, I do and stuff. But
good.
I am definitely the guy that will take the easy way out to do that. And
I mean, why not though, right? It's convenient. It's usually cheaper. It's usually it tastes good. So I mean, it's hard to resist.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Honestly, it's addicting.
And that's what I would change about this country. I mean, I feel like fast food is like it's like a once a month thing, which is that's all it should be. I mean, I don't think they'd survive if everyone's doing it once a month, but that's really all it needs to be. And it's not just fast food; it's just these large portions that we get too. We've just kind of we have a. I'm going to tie in another one with like cultural status and like looking good and being obsessed with self and our vanity and looking beautiful and good looking and all this stuff. So we have a society that wants to give us fast food restaurants, wildly large portions, gluttonous food covered in cheese, melted in everything, topped with bacon. I'm drooling right now. I'm so fucking hungry. But anyways, and then at the same time, we want to look good, and where that's the biggest difference. That's what's causing so much mental health issues in our culture is that we have all these perfectly filtered and gorgeous bodies all over the internet on social media. Look at me, look at this, and then the next thing we've got is fucking cheesecake factories 220 100 calories, 2200 calorie fucking pasta dish. It's just like, what the fuck, man? Like most people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about right now, but like it's insane how these two different things are going at the same time. And then you get these young minds, these young girls, young men too, that want to look good, but they also are just conditioned to eat like this, and it's just not clicking, and it causes a lot of
Well,
frustration.
wait, not to mention I would say that when individuals see other individuals that look like that, like models, Victoria's Secret models or something like
Hmm.
that, it it can become dangerous
Yeah.
for them, for those individuals who want to try to look like that, because
Yes.
then they start starving themselves and having eating disorders
Right.
and stuff of that nature.
Yep, and check back in the recent episodes, maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, we had Yoli on, one of my friends out on the West Coast, and she opened up about her eating disorder. It's a serious thing. It's not a
Hmm.
joke. It's a serious thing, like you said. And yes, they do. They start doing. They don't know what to do, and that's why that's again. It goes back to why you want to understand how to eat, what to eat, when to eat it, and everything of the sort, and how to change your habits. Because if you don't know what to do, if all you know is how to just go order a burger at a restaurant and some fries, and you want to look like these models on the internet, you're going to just starve yourself because you don't know what to do. So you got to figure that out. There's a lot more to it than just don't eat. So that's bullshit as well. Last one I'm going to touch on. I kind of started off with it earlier. Is this emphasis on college and the debt that it follows with it. I get it if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or something of the sort, even an economist, of something like that, where you're at here. I get there are very, very valuable degrees. I have a degree, it's a bachelor's degree, which is now basically it seems like a high school diploma at this point. But there are a lot of times where where people are going to the debt to get a degree on something, whether it be business, whether it be liberal arts, something else that this isn't going to correlate, isn't going to give you a job that's going to have a median salary that's going to help you pay this debt back that you're going to take on the student loans. I'm not shitting on college. I'm not shitting on education. I think it's great. If you want to go, you want to do it. I think it's awesome. I just hate how much it fucking costs. And I hate that it puts people into debt and normalizes debt for the youth. That's more or less what it
Yeah.
is. It's not so much the education is great. If you want to go learn something, awesome. But like, why the fuck is it so much got freaking money? It doesn't have to be this
No,
much money.
it's at 100%. And I mean, that's obviously one of the argument. That's a huge argument going around
Hmm.
everywhere. And it would require a whole restructuring of the entire education system as it goes. I mean, if you look back, and I remember when I went to school, one of my textbooks was like $500.
Yeah,
And
jeez.
every year they have a new edition. And it's just like, well, what happens to this textbook that is only different by this new edition by like maybe a paragraph?
Hmm.
And
It's a
it
scam.
just gets it it is a way to profit
Yeah.
on the ability to sell the stuff. Now, I will say, from an economic standpoint, there are many, many studies that are all show the quantitative um, support that going to college, you will earn more in the long run than if you did not,
Yeah, that's
and the
it.
overall consensus. But at the same time, going back to how I mentioned before, how I was when I first got out of the military, I was making a six-figure income. I had a house, I had everything, good to go. And but I would go into work hating my life every single time. I would bitch and bitch and bitch, and I could not wait to get the hell out of there. And I said, screw this. I went and did something that I wanted to do and completely changed my life's path. I mean, I felt like Billy Madison back in school because I was much older than everybody else there.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
it's what I want to do. I believe that if you have that, if you know what you want to do it. It doesn't mean you have to go to school. I mean, look at what the hell's the guy, Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. He doesn't
Right.
have a degree, and it's one of the richest damn people in the world. If you have an idea, do it.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. I think it also doesn't even like the school system's one thing. I think that's where I think that's where the monetarily it comes in. It pisses me off about how much it costs to go ahead and obtain a degree. That's where that the school side of it, but it comes
Mhm.
also into with the job requirements, requiring a bachelor's degree for a job that doesn't really fucking need a bachelor's degree because I mean, there's a lot of those out there. Like, you need a 4-year degree for this. I'm like, for what? Why? Why do I need that? It doesn't correlate. It's a lot of jobs like that. They're just requiring them to require them. And now I don't know if they're starting. I've heard they're starting to pull that requirement more nowadays. I don't know whether that's just so they can pay people less or what, but that's what I'm hearing.
I can't really stand to that. I know that with the position that I'm in, that I was very, very, very fortunate that the my educational background, everything I went to school for, is exactly what I'm doing right now
And then
to a
that
T.
that is out there. That is. I'm not saying it's not. That absolutely, like I
And
said.
then I also know people that, went to school for chemistry and they're driving a taxi cab or something like that,
Yeah.
And I believe that, again, as I said, if you want something and you know what you want, go there. But there are certain degrees that you may have to go a lot further than a bachelor's degree in order to get what you want out of it.
Right. That's true. There's a lot of different paths to take. Again, if you're listening and you want to, come at me or whatever about this one, but that's just how I feel about it, knowing the amount of debt that people take on to do this. And I also think it's kind of rough to have a 18-year-old nowadays. I mean, an 18-year-old nowadays is not the same as an 18-year-old 30 or 40 years ago, in my opinion. I think it's kind of tough to have a 18-year-old make such a decision to invest this much money into a future at that young of an age. I don't know what the other answer is to that, but I just think that's kind of a scary thought now that I'm on the now that I'm about 25 years removed from that age. I just think that's wild. But given the amount that it costs to do it, but here we are. So, and that's all I've got, Mike.
Yeah.
So that's the show. That's it for today. Again, that was a good one. Thanks for being here, Mike. Again, a lot of good insight from you. That's why I had you on here when you responded to my story. I said, you know what? He wants me to message him to talk about. Just come on the fucking show, and that's better off. So, again, if you want to contact me, I am on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X at MFS Wellness. I have an email address, mike@mfswellness.com. Mike, do you want to put any contact out there, or do you want to just kind of lay in the weeds?
No. Yeah, just lay in the weeds.
All right, just lay in the weeds. If you want to talk to this guy, you can talk to me first then on any of those spots. So,
Yeah.
any closing thoughts, Mike? Are you good?
Uh,
Good to go?
Make sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Ovaltine. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, for Mike Tonkovic, I'm Mike Sinopoli. Thank you to all who listen, and we will see you on the next episode.